Brittany, are we on?
This conference will now be recorded.
It is 5:30,
Yes.
so we will begin. Welcome, everybody. This is the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Today is June the 9th, 2022. It is 5:30 p.m. And this is the work session for TURA. Item number one this evening on our agenda is Executive Director Jennifer Oliver from the South Central Council of Governments. She's gracious enough to be with us this evening. I've heard her once before, but in the audience, so I get to hear it from a different side.
I get to look at you directly right now. Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Oliver. As I've been introduced, I'm the Executive Director, 2-month new Executive Director for the South Central Council of Governments. I work closely with Commissioner Lopez, and it's just an honor to be here. And I basically just am here to answer any questions that you have. I wasn't sure exactly what you wanted me to present, but I'm happy to take questions, or if there's something you want me to elaborate on, I'm happy to do so. And if I may approach the dais, I want to hand out my cards if I may.
Sure.
To you too, because I've already gave you a card. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet
Well,
you.
in the recent past, probably a couple of months ago, because we couldn't schedule for, I think our schedules didn't connect for last month.
For last month.
Commissioner Lopez suggested that we invite you here, that maybe you can possibly give us some, I mean, you know COG is there, and it's been there for so long, but
Yes.
their programs, and if there's anything there that would be of mutual benefit of what COG does, that maybe could
Absolutely.
cross over what urban renewal might
Right.
have, although we're different programs work in
Yeah.
different ways, but there are needs in the community
Yes.
that sometimes are not recognized or overlooked or whatever
Right.
else, and sometimes it's another entity that can recognize it.
Right. So, do you want to say something? Okay.
I'm gonna turn some lights on.
Okay. Yeah, so the role of COG is unique, not unique everywhere else, but it's unique in that we get to administer, we get to facilitate, we get to work with different agencies, different governments, and we provide kind of a venue for people to work together, and we leverage a lot of the federal dollars and the state dollars that can come to the community, and we can allocate it, or not really allocate it, but we're kind of the facilitators for it to make sure that everyone can have a voice and that we are hearing what the unique needs are of the communities, whether it's in Orfano or Los Animas, and we can make that available to the residents here to increase their quality of life, their rural quality of life. So the timing is actually really nice. I don't know if you're all familiar with the roadmap process that's been going on. It's through the Department of Local Affairs. I'm still getting my acronyms straight. So DOLA's Department of Local Affairs. And so through the roadmap process, I guess phase 1 was identifying some needs for this area, which were prioritized as economic development, housing, and broadband, so connectivity for everybody. And at this point in time, we're in a kind of the phase 2, which is, okay, well, what's next? What do we do with these priorities? And so what the next steps are is we're going to be bringing in stakeholders to have a variety of meetings for the different priority areas to find out what kind of plan we can do to implement and leverage some federal funding that's going to come to us, what's going to work well for the cities of Trinidad and Walsenburg and the counties of Los Animas and Orfano. So we're actually going to be having a meeting here next Wednesday, and I know that many of the stakeholders that are invited, there are a lot of them that are public officials, but I'd be happy to invite you, Mr. Chairman, or anyone that you would like to delegate to be a part of it. I think this first meeting is going to be on housing, and so we're trying to bring in a lot of stakeholders to kind of identify what maybe some planning and development codes are that we can reduce some barriers for development to kind of help with some renewal, things like that. And then identify some parcels that might work well. In terms of urban renewal, I think another main program that we administer for DOLA is the enterprise zone for the counties. And basically both counties, all of the counties are considered an enterprise zone eligible, which means that businesses and developers can get some tax credits if they are rehabbing an old vacant lot, for example, if they're doing employee training, things like that. So there are some tax credits available, and so if you work with your, like if a business owner wants to work through their tax accountant, they can work through those. You know, you just go through a pre-certification and you can become eligible for some of those things. So that's kind of a high level thing where I think might be relevant. And Luis he can speak more if I miss something.
Perfect timing for this too. And
Yeah.
I've been on council of governments for 6 years, and I've never seen a director at our Colorado county's conferences. Ms. Albert was there this past week with us, and she got to meet a lot of interesting people and the connections and the networking. And one of the networks that we might work hand in hand with TURA is CHAFA. And what's her name? Christine?
France.
Oh, I can't remember her name. Tranny, Mrs. Tranny is her name, yeah.
Caroline
Tranny. And so we got to have a conversation while I was up there, and then they did a presentation at our Southern District meeting, and I think it's going to be perfect hand in hand for our blight buildings, our empty vacant lots and stuff for moving forward. It's a lending mechanism for housing. So this organization can be brought in. COG can be the pass-through. Urban Renewal can be possibly tied with this, but it's a perfect timing for all of these projects that we've been wanting to do for urban renewal and some of these old abandoned houses and buildings and stuff. So that's going to be great when you have your housing meeting next week.
Yeah.
And maybe you invite or have her call in, Ms. Tranny, to that.
I believe they're invited. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're working with some consultants. It's Downtown Colorado Inc., DCI, and then Bohannon and Houston are the consultants that are working with DOLA and the various COGs, because I think all COGs are involved in this kind of roadmap process to identify those unique needs for us. And through this stakeholder process, those needs were identified. So yes, the timing is nice that you know that I'm here and then bringing this before you.
What time is that meeting?
I think it's going to be from 10 to 1, and it's going to be here. I will send you an invite, Karen Griego, and then you can forward off to anyone else.
I've got it for 10. It's
yeah.
on my calendar for 10.
Yeah, 10 to 1 here. And so we're thankful to the city of Trinidad for letting us use this facility because we didn't have anything that would be big enough. And so we're hoping that this will be big enough because the invite list is growing, which is good. We want to bring people in. We want to bring in some big employers because housing is impacting, obviously, the mine, for example, and some of the other larger employers because, you know, if we don't have good workers, we can't grow our businesses. And if we don't grow our businesses, we don't grow the economy.
So in speaking with all of our directors, and this is for you to know, I've spoken with most of them at COG, and they're absolutely ecstatic with you and your work ethic and what you're doing with them. Again, 6 years on that board, and I've never seen these directors so happy to be back at work, and so good job.
That's great, thank you.
You represent our community very well, so thank you.
Well, those directors and the staff there at COG, I feel very fortunate to be a part of that team, so I'm very happy to be there, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the kind words.
You bet.
We appreciate you taking the time to come
Of
and
course,
visit with us this
I'm
evening.
happy to do this.
Look forward to seeing some more of you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice to meet all of you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Item number 2 this evening is the City of Trinidad plans, visions, what we've talked about in the past. It was suggested that we invite Mayor Phil Rico, or representatives of the city to maybe talk about and see what the city has thoughts and desires into the future, where maybe COG could be, I'm sorry, COG, Trinidad Urban Renewal, TURA can be a part of it. And I think I put it in the notes to the packet. If you all recall, well, you and I will recall Commissioner Bolton, that he was one of the original number that were appointed in 2015, and then he decided to go on to bigger and better things. So
and I took his place.
So Mayor Rico, thank you for coming this evening. Appreciate you taking the time to be here. I know your schedule is busy, so and relaxed time probably is at a minimum and valued right now, but you get to be on that side opposed to
it's
this
unusual.
So thank you. And again, you know, one of the things that Commissioner Lopez, you're the one who made that suggestion when we met last, is maybe have somebody from the city, more so yourself, to come in and visit with us, tell us where the city sees what's going on, development, redevelopment, dire needs, and what those things. So, you know, that was the intent for the invitation. So, you know, you're well versed in all those. You're probably the person, the go-to person to ask those questions.
Anyway, Chairman Grego, thank you, and members of TURA, you know, thank you for the invite. Like you said, you know, I was one of the original people that was on TURA when it was reinstated in 2015. Spent about a year doing that. Actually, we all went to Denver at that time, spent a day and a half in training. So I got a pretty good understanding as to what you know, TURA you know, is needing to do, or what its capacity can be. You know, as we know, Trinidad is under revitalization right now. There's a lot of needs. You know, there's, like we're talking about, the housing needs. Jennifer, you were talking about the broadband. We're talking about what do we do now that we are trying to make Trinidad a destination point? How do we make this a destination point? And the needs. You know, unfortunately, we live in a smaller community that we're not an affluent community. We're not a Vail. We're not a Breckenridge, where where businesses that really want to move into. We have to go out and seek these businesses. I gave you a good example. About a year and a half ago, I went to Raton. I was talking to the owner of Woody's, and I followed up with him and followed it. One day, all of a sudden, I went out and I see a sign up there. You know, so we have to be persistent whenever we see a need. There are needs. There are, you know, one of the biggest problems that we have, and I'm not sure if you've read the leakage report that we have and economic development has. If you have not seen that, that would be something that I think would be a good thing for you to read, and matter of fact, for you to have, so that you can see what kind of leakage that we have going out of Trinidad, and you know how do we approach that leakage, because it is pretty evident in of some of the needs that we have.
So leakage, do you mean by loss of businesses or loss of revenue?
Loss of revenue. One of the big things that's in there is the need is for an additional grocery store. But we also have other needs. You know, we have a clothing store, you know, women clothing stores especially. Years ago we used to have several, you know, but now we don't have anything in town. So these are the type of things that we really need to work on. And you know, now that we have a COG director that I think is going to be able to work together with us, I think that we, matter of fact, I was just talking, I've been trying to get together and meet with her, to sit down with her and see how do we work together, how do we move together. I really believe that the vision that we have of making the city of Trinidad a destination point, and I think it is coming together because we have now we have two state parks within a couple of miles of each other. We're also working on a river visioning, and hopefully that'll, you know, come around. And at that point in time, if we can make that work, we'll have a trifecta of recreation, you know, in the community. How do we attract and the tourism to come? How do we attract them to stay here an extra day or two or three? There are many other things, I think, not only within the city, but within the county, that I think that will allow these people. We have Ludlow that will allow them to stick around for that extra day, 2 or 3 days, so that they'll, you know, so that they can spend their money. They'll fill the heads and beds in the hotels. So these are really, really important things. But then the biggest thing that I can think of, and like I said, I'm glad that Jennifer is here, is that working together with the Council of Governments, because they, you know, they kind of see and bring in a lot of the monies from the federal government. One of the big disappointments that I had this last year was when they did the census. The census really killed us. As we know, that's how we would get a lot of our money. And approximately 46% of the residents in the county, that was what I gathered from what I heard, did not fill out the census. So that's a loss of revenue that people just don't quite understand, that if they don't fill out that application, we lose revenue. But you know, I believe that moving forward with Council of Governments and you know, TURA, we have 3 organizations within the city that are really, really vital to commercial and residential and, for residential, and that would be, of course, city council. Also, we have TURA and planning and zoning. Those are our three main components that we have within the city of Trinidad. We have a lot of the other boards and commissions that, kind of, fill in as far as that goes. But those are three main components that I think are vital to, especially the commercial side of things, like you were talking about. You mentioned earlier that, I guess the road plan that I think Jennifer mentioned.
The roadmap, yeah.
The roadmap. What it'll do to identify and how that bring, what kind of money will that bring in, or what do we have to do to go out and get that money? As we know, there's millions of dollars available from the federal government coming to all over the state. And the big thing is we've had meetings and had several meetings for housing and all this other stuff. The big problem that I've seen with the money from housing is there have been about 6 or 7, this last legislative session, for instance, there were like 6 or 7 different bills that were put forward. And it's kind of like, which one do we pick, A, B, C, D, E, F, or G? And many of them overlap. And I think you guys are probably seeing the same thing within the commission.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really it's really confusing. But the money is there. And how to go out and, what do we have to do to go out and reach out and get that money? And I think that is where I think that now the Council of Governments, and we have a really good director out there, I think that we could probably try to work together to make that happen. I will schedule some time to meet with her and see where we move forward.
I have a wish list for you.
Okay?
Chairman Grego and Brittany have done a fabulous job for the last couple of years keeping this urban renewal going and keeping us flowing, but we really need some help with an executive director.
Yes.
So I don't know what the city council can approve or help us with that, or funding, or I don't know how we move forward, but that's something that probably needs to be resolved sooner than later.
I agree with you. As a matter of fact, when the urban renewal started, that was one thing that we talked about at the beginning, that at some point in time that you would need an executive director. I know that you're getting your tax income and financing money back in, and I talked to Ed yesterday a little bit, and he said that you're getting X number of dollars at least per year. Do you need a full-time? Do you need a part-time? The money that you have now, is there enough money in your funding that you can fund a part-time person? And finding that right person is the main thing. I think that's the real critical thing. You need someone with some experience, someone with a good personality, someone that is willing to dig in the trenches and really get after it. But I think that's really important.
Because what it does, it puts us in a kind of a hard spot to go after blight, to go and start doing things on our own without having a director, and then the board makes a decision
Right.
based on those recommendations from the executive director. So to help the city and COG and CHAFA and all these empty lots, we talk about it all the time, all these old houses and can be condemned or put for blight and removed or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But without having that person guiding at that level, it's very difficult for us
You
to
need
do
to
our
have
job.
someone boots on the ground,
Right.
whether it's.
Yeah, so for commissioners to go out and solicit and knock on doors and check on property, it's not really appropriate for us to do that, because then we come in a position where we're voting on these issues.
It's almost like a conflict in a
Right.
sense. It really is.
Right, so if that could happen, and then we could really get started on doing what urban renewal does and helping the city of Trinidad and get better, So that probably be the first step, and then I have another wish list, but after that one gets put, then we go from there. But I think that would really help us for us to do our job. We have some more applicants coming forward that want to join urban renewal. So I think we got momentum again. We just need a director. And a note on the COG census, that was one of the reasons why the contract wasn't renewed for the former director, because we were very disappointed in that. So you hit the nail on the head with that one too.
Yeah.
But if we could get
Sure.
if we can get another Jennifer for
There you go.
urban renewal.
Mr. Mayor, if I could on that, and I think we discussed, I got to explain how that works on the executive director. Under urban renewal, the statute that regulates or that prescribes what urban renewals do, it indicates in there that we may appoint a secretary, basically executive director. That's what it says in there. The beginning points when urban renewal came into being, we had no money. There was no money available. And it was determined that, based upon what the calculations were for what the TIF that would be collected, it would be several years before we could get to that point. So there's a cooperation agreement in place between the City of Trinidad and Urban Renewal that they have provided to us several services throughout. They do provide services. At one point, it was the the executive director, starting out with TURA Marshall, then it went to Jonathan Taylor, then Greg Sund as a city manager. With his departure, there's really nobody within the city that could have filled it. I think it was bogging down the prior city manager at the time as well. They got full plates, so bringing them on is really helpful. But sometimes it's can they justify doing for us when they've got that many more things to do? So that's how it works. So it's really up to us to put that, and that's something that we're going to have to discuss. Is what we get $40,000 of TIF per year, plus or minus, but it's $40,000 is what's coming in. And I just ran into Jody Motto yesterday, and we had a meeting scheduled. We wanted to talk about certain things, the TIF map and everything else, but she just had a lot of things going, but she assured me she hasn't forgotten me. And so we're going to talk about that to see, because we want to see, examine the TIF map, see what the amounts that we're getting is. I would hope that 40 would be even greater than that, but it's all based on the properties that are on the TIF map and where we're going to get TIF above the base. And so that's where that's at. But it'd be up to us to determine how much, and yes, we do need, I can tell you right now, we definitely need an executive director, because as chair, trying to do those kinds of things is to become laborious and cumbersome. And so it's one where, I have to juggle around a lot of schedules to try to make it to happen. So, but that's where it's at. It's not that, the city has accommodated us a lot of ways in the past, up to and including Brittany providing the services that she provides to us, which, without that, it would be crippling. That'd probably be the best description I could give. It would be crippling.
So let me ask you this: when do you ask me? Like I talked to you a little bit yesterday, do you guys feel that a half-time director is what's needed at this point in time, or?
I do.
Probably. I wouldn't see a need for a full-time.
Yeah.
So what would you estimate you would have to pay that half-time person? And the reason why I asked that question is that we'll be coming up to the budgeting process here, and of course that will be after Mike leaves, and we'll have our new city manager at that time. So this way I can talk to him or her or whoever it is to tell them that if there's a consideration there. One of the things that we have to really watch for is that our sales tax for the first quarter was off this year, and I'm sure the county saw that too. So we've got to be very careful with that. But there's also the need of how do we appropriate properly so that we fund the organizations that need funding to help us to move forward. I think that's really the critical component here. And
if we get to that point, move forward with that, and we start helping with the blight and get these old abandoned homes revitalized or raised to the ground and build new ones. Now we got property tax rolls. Now we have utilities coming in for the city of Trinidad, for our school districts, our fire districts, and all that. So it's a win-win-win. So it's kind of, I do the budgets too for 8 other boards I'm on. So how do we manage what the input, the dollars we spent to get a return on the investment? For a part-time director, I don't know what Pueblo directors make.
Well, here's the thing that that TURA is faced with, and matter of fact, when they went up on that in 2015 or 16, whenever we went to that 2015, when we went up to that training, they told us, like Aurora, this was 2015, and we went in 2014. Aurora was the first one, I think, in the state of Colorado. They started back in 1970 something, or the 80s time frame. So they've been at it a long time. They're doing
Continuously.
The other one was Pueblo. So the one thing that, and I think that sometimes board members of TURA are seeing there's not a lot of movement. And I think the reason is that it's going to take time to build that capacity. So you cannot get frustrated. You know, encourage whoever your new board members are to not get frustrated, because it is going to take time to build that capacity to where things begin to move, where you have that director, where there's other things happening. And I believe they are going to be happening, and they have been happening over the past few years. And I just wanted to mention one other thing, and Jennifer, you mentioned about the broadband. I've been pushing broadband within the city since last year. I was at a Action 22 meeting last year, and there was a gentleman from the state of Colorado. He was their broadband guru at the time, and he gave a short spill that broadband. So I said, well, after the meeting, I talked to him. I said, you know, I've noticed at that time, that's when they had started to run the fiber line on I-25 up and down. And I asked him, I said, would there be a possibility at some point in time that we could tie in? So he connected us with somebody else. We had a meeting, and there's a high possibility of doing that. That line is supposed to go out live here shortly, from what I understand. They thought it was going to be June, but I think it's going to be later than that. But what really boils down to it, as we know, like I mentioned earlier, so many people want to move here or move to rural areas where they can work from home. So in order to provide that, we need to have that broadband. And right now, the city of Trinidad received $2 million from the federal government through that ARPA funds. We've used half of that already for something, but we have $1 million there that I've recommended to council to allocate to broadband. And of course, that will allow us to leverage additional funding for broadband. So I believe that is the way of the future of Trinidad. If we're going to bring in new residences, new commercial industries, people that want to work from home, I really believe that that's where it's at.
Now we have the CCOM bringing broadband from Kim down 350, all the way from 160 to the Shore Junction, and then to Honey.
Once we see this activity, we're going to see a lot of activities. People saying, okay.
Our realtors are chomping at the bit.
Yeah, well, we're going to see other organizations.
Right.
That's what happened, I think, up in Longmont. That's what happened in Fort Collins.
So that's why I said we got momentum going for urban renewal right now. We just need a little bit of, I don't know if we make it an agenda item so we can have a discussion to make a proposal to the city. I think that would be something we probably should do, and then
Sure.
Then we can get a proposal to the city, I guess.
Well, yeah, we could work in tandem. I mean, again, it isn't the full board responsibility of the city to provide the manpower for it. They do it by that cooperation agreement, and it's been one that's been there since 2015, and it's been very, very helpful to us because there's been a lot of resources being available to us that allows us to be able to get get the assistance. But it's one where we may have to, with our autonomy, we may need to figure out how we're going to do it. And we look at our budget, and it's, we're better off than we thought we'd be that long ago. And I gotta say, one of the reasons is that where we're at is we had a $100,000 infusion we were provided from the city of Trinidad from, was it 2018?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
I think 2018. So of that balance that you see, which is the end of May 2022, that current balance is $352,218. So of that, $100,000 doesn't mean we haven't spent money along the way. Well, two things. There have been the $100,000 that the City of Trinidad awarded us, plus a $75,000 land sale that we completed in 2021.
So you're gaining ground.
We're gaining ground.
The whole idea, for TURA eventually is, Carol can say, is that the idea behind TURA would eventually that they would be able to stand on their own 2 feet. You may need to have basically a crutch in the meantime, so you can get some additional funding so that you'll be able to fund that executive director and any other positions at some point in time. So that's going to be really important. But that's what you guys have to work forward to. But and like I said, if you want to put a proposal together and get it to us for our next budget cycle, we can take a look at it.
Mayor?
Yes.
I have one question. I understand that you are advertising or were advertising for someone to be a director for the Main Street program.
Yes.
Is that a full-time or part-time position?
I'm not sure if Mike was going to do a part-time person on that, because it's going to as you know, the Main Street and the Creative District, I think we're gonna merge together. I think that's the possibility. So it could be a full-time position, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So we could find out. Matter of fact, I'll ask Mike and then I can get back to Ed on that and then he can let you guys know. But that's another important thing, the Main Street, that we need a director there because it's like you guys.
Yes.
We have the chairperson trying to do the daily duty as well as be the chairperson. And that's
Exactly, and I was
difficult.
thinking, you know, there were some ways that Main Street and TURA do intersect, and I was thinking if that person was hired on a part-time basis, perhaps it could become a full-time and include us. But if they're going with Creative District, then that thought's for naught.
Well, you never know. It's a thought. You never know because it could be that position may only be a half-time too. You never know. I'll talk to Mike about that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Give me your list.
I'll get it. Yeah, I just, I come back from conference and I'm reinvigorated with all kinds of ideas and talking all kinds of money up there and all these other ideas from other commissioners that are doing in different counties, what their programs are, and it's refreshing to go to these conferences because you get.
You're right. And as a matter of fact, I tell council that all the time. I've told them, a few times in council meetings, whenever we go to conferences, keep your ears and your eyes open because you never know what you're going to hear. It's kind of like this broadband thing. There's other things that have happened that, I've been able to capture because I was at meetings and I brought them, to the city and it's worked out.
Yep, networking.
Yeah, that's all it was. All right,
Like
thank
my
you.
parents used to say, talk less, listen more.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
you being here. All right, moving on. Item number 3, TURA board applicants. We have 2 applicants that have submitted, 2 individuals that have submitted applications. Thanks so much.
We'll see you guys. Thanks.
And we have present tonight. So on the list first, on the agenda first tonight, Mr. Pat Howlett. Mr. Howlett. In fact, Mr. Howlett was here last month, 3 weeks ago, and indicated to us that he had an intention to apply. So here you are. You got your application. Would you like to add any more to the written?
I'd like to share just a couple things, and again, appreciate it. I will tell you what, that was a great meeting to go to because of that presentation. My timeliness on that was very fortunate.
It was.
And so that was really, really appreciated doing that. So I just wanted to kind of lay out some things since then. So certainly I have some experience that I think I could like to bring. I was a member of the Grand County Housing Authority, Fraser Planning and Zoning, the Town Council in Fraser. I was Fraser Mayor. I was on board of Ski USA, Colorado representative at one time. Something that I really thought that I've not shared before is I was in North Carolina. My dad had cancer, so I went home and got 5 extra years with him. But I lived in Franklinton, North Carolina, and Franklinton was, before I-95 went down, Franklinton was like Trinidad, had incredible buildings. The trains used to stop there, and they had lots of businesses, and was a multi-dimensional town. And then it wasn't. It was a lot of blight, a lot of empty businesses, a lot of empty buildings, and just no jobs. And so I was there for about 5 years, 4 years, worked with the town to actually consolidate organizations. So we created something called Franklinton One. We took some of the organizations that weren't well funded. We took organizations that didn't have executive directors. We took organizations and we combined them together into this Franklinton One. And it ended up being the spark that actually got some things going on. So sometimes consolidation when you know things. So I've had some experience there. I'm on the Friends of TSC's board, the Friends of TSC. I'm a board member on that. And in the past life, early on, I was an accountant and a paralegal in an earlier life. This is all earned right here. So here's the thing though, I have time to invest in this. I love this community. I actually have time. I've been able to structure my life to this point where I have that time and I can help with feet on the street and I can help be in these areas. I run a business that really is isolated from kind of local politics. tidbits is certainly a gift that we kind of bring to the area, but I have a consultancy that's outside this area, and all my clients are in regional areas. So I really can help do some of those kind of facilitate things, because I do know the politics sometimes of going to somebody knocking on a door that may actually affect negatively your business or your standing. I read and study everything. I really dig in. I will always be prepared. It's something I pride myself on. I was the internet service provider for a good chunk of northern Colorado for 13 years. And so I brought broadband to Oak Creek, Steamboat Springs, Winter Park, Fraser, Grand County, all of Grand County and that area. So I did that for 13 years. I did that when it was modems all the way until we started running DSL. So that was 13 of the early years of internet. So if broadband ever comes in, I still consider
That
myself.
was the worst noise ever.
Here's some interesting things though. In the last meeting, again, it was very fortuitous to be able to come here, Carol, when she was the mayor pro tem in 2015, and then the mayor when in 2016 took over, they came out with the 2017 Trinidad Comprehensive Plan. It was great work. Your husband was part of that as well. Sonny was part of that as well. Great work, real granular. Over 50 people, over 30 organizations. And so one of the things that was said was that we need maybe a vision, and I'm going to say, if you look at that, TURA is listed in that throughout the plan, as either the lead organization on specific objectives in the implementation, chapter 8 of the implementation plan, or as a champion member, meaning coordinating with other organizations that do that. Examples in there specifically call out for TURA. Encourage new development and redevelopment in the growth and reinvestment areas, and make strategic public investment to maximize private investment. We have those opportunities in kind of our charter, and it's in the city's comprehensive plan. Focused investment and redevelopment efforts on the El Corazon to Trinidad. Diversify housing choices to attract new household types. Meet the needs for all citizens. And this one, increase investment and stability in neighborhoods to improve neighborhood vitality, safety, and appearance. And so those are some of the things that are in our charter, but it's also matching right in the comprehensive plan right now. And again, that plan was a living document. You change it, you update it. If things aren't applicable anymore, you update that like we do with all other things. I'd like to help with these closer relationships with TSC. They've got that kind of blight rehabilitation program that's funded by the Colorado Attorney General's office. It's fully funded for, I think, they've got another year of funding or more on that.
The building trades.
The building trade. So, there's something they're already doing. They're already having successes, and I think there's some things maybe we can bring to them and education can bring to us to help us a little bit. Certainly, the county commissioners, planning, zoning, the great folks on planning, zoning, and variance. I think, as the mayor said, and as I think the chairman said, there's already organizations out there that if we kind of connect with them a little better, we can accelerate maybe some of the things we do. Certainly, our city council and the local development community. We have some really great people that are already here. They're not up north, they're in our area. And certainly things like Metro District and the Creative District. And just in closing, I'd like to help do the hard things. That will help Trinidad, today, but also into the brighter future that I think we all know. And so I'd like to see if you can put me to work. And thank you for your consideration. If anybody has any questions.
Pat, if I may, Mr. Howlett, what's your
Pat.
Well, it's a 5-year term, one appointed, right? Okay. You were in Fraser?
Fraser, Colorado.
Did they have an urban renewal there?
No. We didn't have a lot of buildings there, but I will say this, we had a lot of heads and beds, and Fraser Winter Park is really one community. We had over 1.8 million people come there during the winter, and over 3 million people come there during the summer. I'm very well aware of outdoor recreation, a tourist economy, and those kind of things. That's really where my experience mostly comes from. And so I was there when I was mayor. I helped set up the Fraser Police Department. We didn't have the police department. We used the city at that time. But that was after the Granby tank incident. I was mayor at that time.
It was just an anniversary of it last week.
Yeah. So we started our own police department. So I have some experience that goes across some other areas. Small town, but big national budgets and huge companies that we had to deal with. And so I think I can get some work help get some work done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Appreciate you
We'll see
being
you.
here.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you. Our second applicant that we have an application for is Mr. Jeff Cockrum.
Evening.
Mr. Cockrum, how are you?
Evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good, how you guys doing?
Good.
Where do we start?
Well, we got your application, and you probably heard, I told Mr. Pat, told him it's a 5-year appointment.
Right.
They are 5 years. Are you familiar, have you gotten familiarized with what urban renewal does? Not necessarily Trinidad urban renewal, but urban renewal as authorized by state statute.
Well, a little bit, did a little research into it, did a little research back when maybe it wasn't such a happy term, urban renewal. And then seen Colorado Springs and Pueblo utilize the program to facilitate some actual very nice
Yes.
upgrades to their cities. Moved to Trinidad about 2 years ago and saw opportunity. I think that's what everybody that moves here sees, and would like to see the use of urban renewal and the fact that we have a considerable amount of funding available at this time implemented into Trinidad. I think we could utilize that. I don't know exactly how to get it, but I'm willing to sit on and learn and maybe get further education and go to some of these seminars
Yes.
that are going to be required to find out how do we do this? How do we take some of this money and bring it into the community? How do we make this a little bit better? So I'm starting on the ground floor.
Like all of us did.
Yes.
It was an adventure to get to. It still is. I mean, it doesn't change because things evolve, and it's like, well,
Right.
to some degree, sometimes a surprise, but it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, it is, everything done is done with the intent of making the community better.
Right. I am a local business owner. I own so-called architectural
Uh-huh.
development services. I'm working on the Trinidad Drive-In Theater property right now. We're getting ready to submit the planned unit development to the city of Trinidad. I'm hoping that's going to happen sometime. And then I keep saying next week, but the entire package is ready for submittal. We're waiting on soils reports from the engineers. Once that's in my hand, I'll submit the package, and hopefully we can get that going. It's 96 new townhomes that would benefit Trinidad, I believe.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Immensely.
Do you have a contractor on that already?
I do. I have an investor and several contractors that are ready to put shovels in the ground.
Awesome.
We need the planned unit development approval, and then we need to move forward with building permits and things of that nature. And that is what I do. I facilitate construction documents and building permits, and work with city and county governments to make that happen.
Well, this is right in your wheelhouse then.
I'm thinking it might be. I'm not sure, but I have a little bit of 23 years of experience doing this, and if I can utilize what I know out there on the ground and bring it in here and help out, then that's why I'm putting in my application.
So I made sure, that's what I get excited about. So many working with so many different people, because the way I always put it, 5, 6 heads, brains put together are better than one.
That's true.
And everybody has a different input, a different perspective, and contributions to whatever board they're serving on. And it makes us better for that if you're able to, work together and feed off one another. So I was going to ask you a couple of questions, but you kind of gave us all on your background there. The only other thing that I would have is the time. Is it not very intense for this sport? I probably put maybe 5 hours a month into it and research and time, and then the 2 hours to the meeting or so, 2-3 hours prepping, and then 2-3 hours of the meeting. So, and that's not a problem for you.
No.
Well,
Great,
I have no issues. I'm glad- excited to see people applying.
it is.
I think he'd be a great fit.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good asset.
Well, we thank you for being here and look
So-
forward to seeing you in the future.
The next step is city council, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to notify, it's a mayor's appointment.
Yeah,
So
so-
I have to notify them that the prerequisite of the application and the meeting, attendance of the meeting have been met. And then it goes forward to them for the approval.
And so the city will call you and then you'll attend their meeting and that's what point you.
Okay.
That's how it works. That's how it is for me, is that's changed, right?
Yes,
Okay.
same.
So after June 21st, I believe is
Yeah, their next, yeah, well, the letter will get to them next week.
right.
And then that way they can get it on their next agenda, and then from there they can finalize
Right.
what it is they do.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
so much.
Moving on, item number 4 is the Earth Mountain Farm lease of what we know as a community garden on the corner of Linden and White Avenues. And just to let you know, at the time that I wrote I prepared the agenda, and I tried to do that to have it in everybody's hands the Friday before the meeting. At that time, the lease had still not yet been signed. Just to let everybody know that the lease was signed yesterday. I have given Brittany the $12 check, which represents rent, the lease fee for the next 12 months from July 8th to July 8th of 2023. So that has been completed. I have the original of the executed document. The other next item was the SCRT, or Main Street Live application for the facade improvements. I did have contact with Gloria Hall, thank you. And she indicated that they will begin on the 20th of June. She said they've been held up as a reason of the wind and other inclement weather, and they've had plays going on and those things, so theatrical performances, so they didn't want to put anything out there that would inhibit their attendance or inconvenience or patrons. So that
We won't jeopardize their time frame. What?
no, they're ready to go. Yeah,
Okay.
they're well within that. You know, actually, when their application was approved, the 90-day
Right.
wasn't yet in. That was the
Yeah.
day. That's when we were considering it. So no, that won't lock them.
Okay.
They're ready to go. But she said, yeah, they will begin on or about the 20th of June. I'm sorry. Any questions on those?
Yeah.
Have you all driven by Earth Mountain where they have a?
Yes,
Have you?
I haven't yet.
I did.
Yeah. There's a building there that looks like at one point it was some kind of a
Tool shed.
A greenhouse.
greenhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't ask Joni about it, but I've seen it. And she did tell me they have like 10 plots being actively worked over there right now. It went from 7, when I talked to her last month, it was 7, it's up to 10,
Good.
10 families or, organizations that are in there actually cultivating and growing. She said, so that is happening. I saw that, I know that it was a plastic covered, heavy plastic covered, and there, I had never seen any damage to it, so I don't know
It doesn't
how
have
and
any
why.
plastic now, it's just a shell.
Yeah,
I don't know if they maybe put the plastic in the spring to like cold start or.
You're not talking about their tool shed, this is a different structure.
Yes.
it's like a greenhouse.
Go by, take a look.
It looks
Arch
like this.
greenhouse.
I've
Yeah.
been by, but for some reason I missed it.
Yeah.
I was just, I don't remember that, for some reason.
Yeah, it was plastic covered, it had clear plastic covering,
When you
heavy
went by.
gauge. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, not recently, it did have previously. I've been at that site quite frequently in the past, to be honest with you. But yeah, it was on there, I'm sure it was for nurturing plants in there to be,
Maybe to start their seedlings out.
Could be.
yeah. But yeah, she did, there's 10
Right now, like I
active,
said, it's just a shell now and it looks like a
shell.
shell.
We have a lease to the Earth Mountain group here in town, and so they lease that property on Linden Street for the community gardens.
I've been out there a couple times, and there was plastic there actually earlier, and it got destroyed with the wind.
Okay, that's.
So that's kind of a recent, within the last couple of months thing, it really ripped it
Because
up.
it used to have
It's just a shell
plastic on it.
now, why would it?
Yeah, so they're trying to get things together and reskin it. So.
All right. Past that, item number 6, the La Puerta Americana Road project, the pay estimate number 4. At the time that I prepared again the information, all the required signatures ahead of TURA were not yet on that pay request number 4. But as of earlier this week, all the signatures are on there. I think you said that to you. You got that. That was sent to you earlier in the week. So, basically, it is on for consideration tonight. No anything for contingent upon anything else. So, just wanted to bring that to your attention because it.
Would you like to give the 2 new prospective members just a very brief overview of why we are approving payments for La Puerta?
Oh.
We're a pass-through. That's real brief. There you go.
Excellent.
We are a
I did have a
pass-through.
question, thank you.
Yeah, well, just as an FYI, just as you know, there is a project that has been begun, but I don't know that the progress is, how far it is. I think it's been stymied by the supply chain problems, so there's a lot of things that haven't happened. I think there's a lot of materials that yet to happen, but there's a public improvement project which is called Americana Road that is being done, and urban renewal was in the development agreement that was passed or accepted and adopted in 2019, I believe it was, June 24th, 2019. We are the entity that we're, if you want to call it a pass-through, but the agreement calls for funds that are related to that project and approved payments go through Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. So those amounts that go through, they come to what we have as a project account. It comes in, the money's deposited to it. We then, as according to the agreement, approve it. It gets paid to the contractors. So that's what it is, and that will be ongoing until the $2.5 million plus construction project is completed.
And this is a street improvement project for City of Trinidad?
Yes.
It is somewhat the City of Trinidad. It is a road and an infrastructure that will be maintained by the City of Trinidad on this dedicated road street called Americana Road.
Oh, it's just the one street.
It's one street, and it
Right.
begins right there in the vicinity of the new hotel and makes its way, and I can't remember where it winds out to, but
Is it Linda?
does it come to Linden? I'm not sure exactly where its
Well, this is
destination.
at our new holiday, our garden holiday. Inn.
Yes, yeah, it's in that area, that's where Americana Road is. And so, within that, the monies that are there, the City of Trinidad contributed, I believe, $600,000, which included some substantial sewer improvements that had to be done down in that area. There's $900,000 that were funding that was being put in by the project owner, which is the La Puerta, and then the city received a $1 million DOLA grant into that. So that's the number that comprises this $2.6 million for the construction. Agreement also calls for if there's any overages from there, the owner, which is La Puerta, will be responsible for those overages. And I guess at this point in time, with things the way they are with costs and whatever else, there
Maybe some-
inevitably is going to be overages. Yeah. But that's what it is. So when you hear it mentioned, that's really what it is. It's monies that come through once approved, just so it goes formally to its final process. Trinidad Urban Renewal will approve it. A check will be cut to the contractor as approved by the city for the funds as approved by the City of Trinidad, the project owner, and the Business Improvement District.
Kind of a custodial account.
That's really what it is, yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions, any other comments on it? Item number 7, I kept it on there because at this juncture, we have board vacancies. So it's there, and when we fill those, we still will need a 7th member.
Yes.
So it's on there, so everybody to keep that in mind. Item number 8, items for future discussion.
I think we put on the work session what we would need as what our thoughts are for a director moving forward, what a salary would be, what a request would be at this time, look at our budget, what we can afford, and what we would need assistance, if any, from the city of Trinidad, and start that process. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, that will be, because I was going to bring it up later as we progress through the regular agenda.
Okay.
Yes, I think, it is one where, as I mentioned earlier, it's a laborious task, and it's one where it does need to be, and that way there's time dedicated to go out and do these things. In a presentation last month, Mike Schultz said, it's something he cannot accomplish. It's something that has to be almost somebody here. I don't know that you can do it with saying, okay, well, we can bring in his consultation services have been, are needed for a lot of different things, and that still may be necessary if we find a way to structure an executive director for the organization. We will do it. Just trying to figure out that way, and one of the things that what I've done is filled in doing all the administrative work, most of the administrative work, is because it was one figuring, okay, what's happening, and we're going to spend money on something that's not happening. So budget conscious and keeping budget in mind, that's where that's been, which has allowed us to actually, our expenditures have been minimal. And if you can see you'll see it on the financial report, our expenditures have been minimal. So we have been good custodian of the funds.
You've done a good job. That's been
We all have. I mean, that falls under the purview of everybody on this board.
The other idea would bring Miss Amato in to have that discussion. That way we put some heat on her, and she can't escape your meeting. And I can mention it.
No,
too.
yeah, no,
But
yeah.
We need to see what our TIF is, if it's the discussion you wanted to have with her, but have it an open session, especially for our new board members at that time, to kind of get their head wrapped around it. It was nice when they came, 2 years ago, Jody and Donna came?
Yeah, it was that we said. Didn't we have Jody in here not too long?
About a year ago, I think.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things we want to do. I want to meet with, I want to get that, some more detail on TIF and to see what it is collectively that is coming in from those properties that are directly affected by the not affected. They're not affected. It's those properties that we get the tax increment. They're not affected in any way. It's the taxing entities that are affected.
Right, and by that time, all of our property taxes should be paid in Los Angeles County through our treasurer's office, God willing. So we should have an accurate accounting of how much has been paid and what's delinquent.
Okay. All right, those are 2 things that I'll be working on to have on for review and discussion in at least the next meeting. Anybody have any other ideas?
No, he stole them all.
Pardon?
He stole them all.
We can put a taco bar in or something, have dinner.
Totally up for that.
Depending on what you put on the calendar, it might happen that way. Okay, anybody else? Any other thoughts? Anything else you want to do? Or okay, and then as I mentioned in my last in the notes, I work in the week before the meeting to have the agenda put together by Friday to try to get the agenda in everybody's hands. So if there's something you see in there that there's questions or you would like to add to the agenda, please let me know in advance and give me information. If you wanted something added, give me a synopsis of what it is that you want, so that I won't just schedule it. We'll know how we're going to approach it when we actually come to meeting.
Okay.
All right. That being said, I think we have concluded and we're done with the business for the work session. So it is 6:29 p.m. Today is June the 9th, 2022, and this is the regular meeting of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Item number 1 is roll call.
Bolton,
Yes.
Leone,
Yes.
Lopez,
I'm here.
Grego.
Here. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes that we had on May 19th, 2022. Yeah, May 19th. Everybody was provided with an advanced copy of the minutes from the last meeting. Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of May 19th, 2022 as presented.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Bolton to accept or approve the minutes with a second by Commissioner Leone. Are there any questions or comments? Roll call.
Bolton,
Yes?
Leone,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 3 is the acceptance of the financial report. Everybody was provided with that information in advance with the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the bills. Do we want to do them separate?
Yes.
Financial
Yeah,
report.
just for the financial
Oh, for the
report.
financial report, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. I'll make a motion to accept the financial report as presented.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Lopez with a second by Commissioner Bolton. Are there any questions or comments? I will just add that we do, if you look, and I did provide that information last month because the county assessor did provide me what the tip was to date, and that's about where it falls now. $16,761 at month end, May 31. That is an increase of $7,864 in our account over the last from the last accounting period. Any other questions? Roll call.
Bolton,
Yes?
Leone,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4 is a consideration of bills. Item 8, Ayers and Associates for work done for us April, May by Mike Scholl. $1,146.50.
I make a motion to pay Aries $1,146.50.
Second?
There is a motion by Commissioner Leone for the approval with a second by Commissioner Bolton. Are there any further questions or comments? Roll call.
Bolton,
Yes?
Leone,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4B, Purgatory Valley Construction for the Americana Road Project. The amount payable, $58,672.52.
I'd make a motion to pay the bill due to Purgatory Valley Construction Americana Road Project in the amount of $58,672.52.
Second the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Bolton with a second by Commissioner Lopez. Are there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Bolton,
Yes?
Leone,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 5, petitions or communications, oral or written. Is there anybody online or anybody in the audience that would like to address the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? Let the record reflect that there's no one that has indicated a desire to address or communicate with the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Item number 6, old business. I have none of record. Item number 7, new business. Have a record. Report by Executive Director. We have no Executive Director, but this is when
I'm trying.
when I fill you all in on those things that have transpired over the last month, or actually last 3 weeks since the last time we met. I don't have anything I was going to mention, but it's been brought up more than one time, the matter of an executive director, and however we're going to make that happen. But again, a consideration how we're going to get it, and how much we have for them to fulfill. It'd be great if it happens under the conditions of how we were doing it previously, using somebody directly from city staff. But again, their dockets are pretty full, so trying to add to that could be a little strenuous on them. So we want to do that in the most effective way for us, and not to put that burden where it's not necessarily needed or appreciated, actually. All right, that's all that I have to say, and again, I act as I am the chairman, and I just do those duties. I'm not an executive director. Item number 9, reports by commissioners.
I went to conference, as I said earlier. CCI was refreshing to see so many of my fellow commissioners in the state and administrators and different organizations there. But CHAFA is really going to be a tool for us to use for urban renewal, and I think the conduit will be through Council of Governments. I think they can assist us when we move forward with buildings that are blight or vacant lots that we really want to rehab. They have a funding mechanism, lending mechanism. It's really great for housing. So I think we can partner up with Carolyn Tranny, and she's the director for our region down here, and with Jennifer Oliver, and see what we do moving forward of seeing, having more discussions on some properties that we've discussed in the past that we want to move forward with. I think it's good timing. And it was in Vail, and I never left the hotel for 3 days. I was stuck in meetings.
Oh my.
We start with a 7 o'clock breakfast meeting, a lunch meeting, and then a dinner with the governor was there. Hickenlooper was there the first night, so you got to meet.
You know, those resorts are a city within themselves.
Right,
You don't
you
have
just-
to go anywhere.
But anyway, that's what I'll have, guys.
Thank you, Commissioner Lopez. Commissioner Bolton? Yes.
I have nothing to report.
No, I don't either.
We need to do an urban renewal retreat in Winter Park, Fraser, where's
There you go, Doug. Yeah.
There you go.
We'd be happy to have you.
Well, you know, there are, I think now, DCI who conducts the, all of it, those will happen at, in Denver offices, there's not, but those opportunities for education will be presenting themselves now in person. A lot of that has been all online, and there's a lot of it available. But it looks like it's going to be gravitating toward being able to allow that to happen. So that being the case, we will let everybody know, let you know what it is. We do have in our budget, we do have training and education funding, or we have it in the budget. So those things are all available. The 101s and all those are available. I'll have to contact Kat Corral at DCIC. I've asked that in the past, and I think I provided to you all. But I don't think it's as comprehensive as being able to sit in there and fall asleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon either. So it's just a matter of, but yeah, hopefully that's coming soon. I think it's been a while since it's been available, but Downtown Colorado Corporation, and I think Jennifer mentioned DCI on some of that. So DCI is probably the foremost, the authority for us to be able to get the education that we can use and need. Anything else? Then we're on item number 10, motion to adjourn.
So move. I'll second.
Motion
Mr.
by
Barack.
Commissioners and Leone. If there are no dissenting votes to that, we will call that meeting adjourned at 6:38 p.m.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for being here.